All right, we're live. Welcome, Freddy.
Hi, Madam.
You look like you got a fright.
I thought you were going to do the 5-second silence.
I was going to do that, but we're fucking around already.
This.
This fucking freaks. Okay, guys, we're going to talk about drug addiction, alcoholism. We're going to talk about codependency. I want to chat about depression. I want to talk about bipolar, mental illnesses. I hate calling it disorders because it makes me feel like you're somehow classifying it as a problem. Same with like post-traumatic stress syndrome. I fucking hate the term syndrome because it's not. It's just post-traumatic stress. So I want to talk about that stuff on a more theoretical basis with practical examples. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that either themselves or their family members, friends or acquaintances might have these symptoms. They're unsure if they actually qualify for one of this. And they can go seek help. And possibly if they're alone, there is help. There's people that can understand. There's actually decades and centuries of science and studies going about how to help these people. And there are a lot of ways of just not only surviving and stop being suicidal, but actually be happy. And there's a lot of like people that has overcome this. You're not alone. And Freddy is a fantastic guy that can help out with that. He's a counselor. Are you specializing in sex addiction or just general addiction?
General addiction.
Okay.
Yeah. I would like to specialize in sex addiction, but I'm not appropriately located for that. We're basically in the platteland where I am. So,
the Boerland.
The Helderberg.
We are not a platteland. Fuck that.
And so I will kind of specialize myself out of a job, nearly.
Okay.
So I need to earn a living. I need to do general addiction.
Are you saying that we don't have enough sex addicts in the Boerland?
We don't have enough people who admit that they have a problem.
Why? Because we're too conservative over here?
I think that's one. And another one is people don't really know that what they are experiencing might be an addiction. So hopefully what we do here today will be one of those things that bring addiction in general and mental health and sex addiction into the open. Part of what I do and why I agree to be on these type of chats is I truly believe that, and I see addiction as a mental health issue, that we need to remove the stigma around mental health. And we need to make mental health a dinner party conversation. One thing that happens often, I used to work for 3 years, I worked on a addiction helpline where this lady will catch her 16-year-old son smoking marijuana. And she goes, oh my God, what do I do? And she goes online and she says, marijuana smoking teenager help. And our website would come up. And she would then call and say, I need help for my son. And I would be the one on the other side of the line to answer that call. And it was so interesting to realize nobody knows, or very few people know where to find help because it's not discussed. The day that I admitted that I had a problem and I needed help, the first thing that we went through was, what now?
Yeah.
We ended up with my doctor, and he kind of went...
Like a GP?
Yeah, GP. And he went, you need to get to rehab. And I said, okay, so where? He said, I don't know. And he scratched around his drawer and said, oh, look, I've got a pamphlet of one rehab center. And he took out the pamphlet, called that one rehab center, and I was booked in. So you would expect a doctor to have a list of rehabs, what they specialize in, to be able to get you the best treatment. I just got treatment because it was the only one that we knew.
And what would have happened if that guy didn't have a pamphlet? Fuck
We
knows.
possibly would have gone onto the internet and called somebody like me.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, exactly.
But you know, like, okay, we're going to talk about mental health, but a big part for my present journey is brain injuries, which causes mental health problems. So mental health is one, but I think over this next 10, 15 years, brain injuries is becoming more and more important to study that. But we're not going to go into that today. We're just talking mental health. So let's just run down. So alcoholism, does that classify under mental health?
As I said, I classify addiction under a mental health issue. So alcoholism is an addiction, so yes.
So alcoholism, narcotics, drug addiction, pharmaceutical addiction, gambling addiction, sex addiction.
Yeah.
So sex addiction is, for example, pornography is included in that, prostitution, masturbation, whatever.
Voyeurism.
I almost find codependency as an addiction because it's almost like you're addicted to that other individual in your life. You can't be without them.
Totally.
Then what I suffered from personally, not suffered, but was adrenaline seeking. So adrenaline was a big addiction for me.
When those endorphins start rushing, then you're hooked. Kind of, yes.
Yeah, well, I think it was, I don't really want to talk about it. I speak about it quite a lot, but I don't know. Life was quite mundane, and it's like, fuck, gotta live life to the fullest, you know, and normal life is just too boring. Like, this makes me feel alive. What other type of addictions? What's the sex love addiction?
Okay. It's weird. I think there are 3 types of addiction which I throw into one category. And we call them the S addictions, because that's sex and love, and love. And
you put them in one pot. But some people put them in 3 pots.
I think of them as similar.
Okay.
Because what it is it's this obsession about someone or something outside of us. But in my head, and I think more in terms of the fellowships. And when I talk about fellowships, I talk about 12-step programs. Now, 12-step programs are the best known one is Alcoholics Anonymous. That's where you go into...
Sit in a circle.
That's
my name is Merve. I'm a alcoholic.
My name is Merve.
Hi, Merve.
And normally in movies they say, we love you, Merve. I had to say to my husband the other day, and we don't say that. We might say, keep coming back or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and in terms of the fellowships, those 3 kind of feed off each other, because a lot of love addicts also have a sex element, and a lot of sex addicts also have a love element. So it's nearly as if there's love addiction, and sex and love addiction stand in the middle.
Okay.
So that's why I link those 3 in my own head.
So let's say, for example, a lot of addicts will drink, but they'll also take narcotics.
Yes.
And then somehow they converge.
That's what those 2 in my head also.
And what is a love addiction? Does that mean somebody treats you like shit, but you somehow love them, or their interaction with you is associated with love, and then you continue to keep them in your life because that the affirmation that you get, like...
There you go. That's the word. When's the last time you were in love?
With my wife.
Cool.
With my cats at the moment.
That was the right answer.
With my cats.
Can you remember that feeling of being in love?
Yeah.
Love addicts fall in love with that feeling.
So this like butterflies,
it's the chemical process that happens in the brain.
Yeah.
That you're on a high.
Yeah. It's like flirting with someone. It's like there's this...
Yes, and that's what love addicts are. So what we normally find with a love addict is that they fall in love with somebody and they have that high, and then the high starts waning. But they like this person, so in a relationship. But because the high has dropped, they start looking for the next person to fall in love with, so they can experience the high. So once they have that person, we'd call it grooming. So we'd normally start grooming the next person to fall in love with. So
they groom the person to, in almost like a pottery master, to become someone that they can have that same experience with.
Yes, absolutely.
So once you continue in a long-term relationship with that individual, does that then go into codependency?
Yes.
So we separate those two. Yeah. So love addictions is quite a short-term based, go through different people.
Invariably, you would be lining up the next one for when this high drops, so that you can get the next high.
And then what the affirmation is, that person buys you shit, treats you, dines you. The sex like comments.
Yeah. Just that feeling of being liked and acceptance and accepted.
Why can't the people continue to just, I love this? So why can't it develop from I'm in love with this person to I love this person and want to spend a lot of time with them? What prohibits them from going to the next level?
It's the same as asking me, why is a Coke addict not happy to do 1 gram?
Why isn't that motherfucker happy?
we seek the high.
Okay. So taking it back to my adrenaline seeking, like life becomes fucking boring, and to feel alive, I need to have this.
Exactly.
And with love addicts, it becomes individuals.
Yeah.
And with sex addicts, what is that? They have to just have that ejaculation, or is it the what is?
Again, it is the chemical process in the brain, the excitement of what you are going to engage in. So
being naughty, I'm being.
Are you old enough to remember modems?
Yeah.
Cool. You know how, but a trigger, the sound of a modem is for many sex addicts.
Okay.
Because they would decide they're going to watch porn.
Okay.
And then when the modem starts, that adrenaline starts
almost
pumping.
like a 20th Century Fox when that beginning of the movie, I'm going to watch a movie now. Like it's like...
That type of thing, yeah. The excitement about what's this movie going to be about? It's going to have lots of action, lots of
So
blood.
you would say
the same type of thing.
The sex addicts of the 90s were a lot more patient than the ones that expecting instant streaming these days.
Yes. And what we found with sex addicts is, so we get addicted to that, what is new, what is interesting, what is prohibited, what is naughty.
Okay.
The initial thing. But all of it stems down to, I'm not okay with me. So therefore, I don't want to experience what I'm experiencing here with me now. I want something else. And that is the concept. That's the principle of addiction.
But that's not a conscious decision every time. It sometimes becomes a pattern. It
becomes an obsession. It becomes a compulsion at some stage. So that's why we talk a lot about obsessive sexual behavior.
Yeah.
And we talk about the compulsion to use.
Okay.
It's very much an obsession and a compulsion.
So, but let's say pornography.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal and standard, Playboy magazines, Hustlers, whatever. And then the internet came about and DVDs and videos and ETV late night. So how do you distinguish between just being a normal kid? How about being just a normal kid or normal sexuality versus now I'm in this gray zone of I might fall back the fence to normality versus go to a sex addict, and at which point do you become this is really abnormal, unhealthy?
In any addiction, we look at 2 things.
Yeah.
The one is tolerance, and the other one is, let's call it withdrawal.
Okay.
The normal addict, the normal person, will switch the computer on, watch a few scenes of pornography, have his orgasm, and switch off and carry on with his life.
Okay.
The sex addict will do that for the first few days, weeks, months. It depends on how fast the addiction progresses. And then just watching a normal sex scene doesn't give him that high that he had the first time.
Okay.
So now he starts looking for more interesting stuff, more intense stuff. That's why sex addicts, pornography addicts invariably end up in really, really hectic things. Now, how
because
hectic?
Everything's available on the dark web.
So depending on the individual, that hectic can be bestiality, or it can end with snuff movies. But ultimately, we need more and more excitement to get the same high as we did the first time.
Is snuff movies someone's actually getting killed, or is this the act of someone getting killed? You don't know.
My understanding is somebody actually does get killed.
Are you fucking serious?
Yes.
It's like, what is that? There's not a movie, 8 Snake Eyes or 8mm with Nicolas Cage. I remember a movie like that, early 2000s. And
I remember
it disturbed
8mm, but I can't remember what
it disturbed me slightly seeing that. I was like, that's not cool. And I read a book the other day where I think it was a Jack Reacher book. the guy Jack Reacher book, and it was this euthanasia hotel where you can choose the way you want to die. So fucking spoiler alert. The people went, and they were wined and dined, and they did it. And then once they went into the hotel, they were hostages, and they would be killed according to people that go into the dark web, and they're like, I want someone to be dying like this.
Oh my word.
And then they would be recording videos and stuff, and and then everyone would, I don't know, it was fucking dark, and I was like, I can't believe that exists, but I'm sure it does.
You know that's the new trend in pornography.
What?
Custom-made pornography.
Okay.
You get pornography producers where you can pay them to shoot a scene that you want to see.
I read a guy on the Guardian did something like this, and he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and it was like something like this guy had a post collection, post stamps.
Yes, so you had the same one as I did, yes.
And then he wanted the lady to step on it with high heel shoes because he realized that it's worthless and it's his life thing, and it's literally that. I was like, but I'm like, I think that's fairly healthy. Just a little feet on your stamps. As opposed to...
Yes, very true. In terms of custom-made pornography, I reckon kind of stepping on stamps, or he apparently had a few different custom houses. He sent different parts of the collection to different houses.
Yeah.
And one was where 3 girls had to kind of destroy the collection while they were lying in front of a fire, and so it's
hectic. So tolerance,
so
and
that's the one is tolerance.
Yeah.
And the other one is once the event is over,
whether
you're going to develop a sense of withdrawal.
Okay.
Until you get to the next one.
So, like for example, like heroin usage go cold turkey. Coke, you're on this heavy downer, ecstasy, whatever. Yes. Like weed, you get your emotions back. Drinking, you're like hungover.
Yeah.
So what would a pornography or a love addict experience? What is their withdrawal?
An obsession for more.
But what's the feeling?
The feeling is very much that. I'm going to answer your question slightly differently. We think of addiction as a mental obsession, a physical allergy, and a emotional emptiness, a spiritual void.
Okay.
So one of the first things we experience is that obsession for more. Because we are struggle to deal with the reality of what our life is.
So obsession is... It's just fucking running in a loop in your head, and no matter what activity, it's almost like you just want to clean the house to get it out of your head. Is that what's obsession? Okay.
Yes. So once you stop watching porn, you've had your orgasm, and you kind of back to normal again.
Yeah.
Then it starts.
Okay.
Kind of, I'm not okay to be here now. I'm not okay with how I'm feeling mostly. Addiction is about feeling. It's about not wanting to feel what I'm feeling right now. So whatever that feeling might be.
So let's say you do it a lot. Drinking, fucking whatever. So if you do it, you're caught in this pattern, but you're not obsessing yet. Does that mean you haven't reached your rock bottom where the repercussions have come up, and you basically just have to wait until you hit that bottom? Because at the moment it's manageable, it's cool, it's still interesting, but you can't get out of the pattern, but you're fine. And then once shit hits the fan, then you know, okay. And do you need to hit the rock bottom to get out of it?
No. But I want to answer your question with the following statement.
Okay.
So the mental obsession and the physical allergy. Now, that concept comes from alcoholism, where the old alcoholics said that you're actually physically allergic to alcohol. Your body physically has a different process happening in it. I have a different view on that, possibly slightly controversial, I'm not sure. And I believe that The allergy presents itself in the fact that whatever I do to take me out of the now has a different meaning to me than it has to you. So, for instance, if I watch a porn scene and you watch the same porn scene, and we end watching the scene with our orgasm once we've masturbated, you're okay to go back to your life as it is. I'm not. For me, that being busy watching that porn meant something completely different to me. It had a completely different impact on me than it did for you, because I have this, and now we get to the third thing, this spiritual void, this emotional emptiness that scene possibly filled for me, and you don't have that. So the scene won't be filling a void for you, or you won't be trying to fill a void while you're watching it. So therefore you can stop watching it and carry on with your life.
It's almost like, sorry, yeah?
Well, I can't, because the minute the high is over, now I'm stuck with this emptiness inside me again.
And would you say it's almost like, I don't know, my wife shows me something on Instagram, I look at the picture, I'm like, yeah, that's really cool, and she shows it to somebody else, and that picture is caught in their mind, and they want to go back and go see it. It's almost something like that, like you want to go revisit it or something.
That it has for you.
Okay.
That's why you can get two people in a relationship doing drugs together. The one ends up an addict, and the other one doesn't. And that's what happened with me in my first marriage.
Okay.
Is my partner and I used to use together.
Yeah.
And I ended up hitting rock bottom because I could not stop.
Yeah.
Because the drugs had such a different meaning to me. It took me away from the stuff I didn't want to deal with. So when I wasn't on drugs, I had to deal with this stuff. So I rather went out and I got more drugs. While he didn't have that stuff to deal with, or he was okay to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's another very interesting thing. Us as counsellors could be faced with a situation where somebody says to you, I am traumatized because my mother slapped me when I was 6 when I broke a vase.
Yeah.
And you think, but what's the big deal?
Yeah.
We cannot decide for somebody what is their trauma. We can't decide for somebody what is it that you're trying to get away from. Is it important enough? Is it bad enough? We all experience a car accident. You will get 4 people in a car experiencing the accident exactly the same way at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
The meaning they take away afterwards are 4 completely different meanings, and the way they react to that are completely different. Each person is a complete unique individual, and we need to look at them as an individual.
My friend said to me recently a few times, 2 brothers. One became super successful, the other became a street bum. They asked the street bum why. Well, my parents were dysfunctional alcoholics. They asked the successful one why. It's like, my parents were dysfunctional alcoholics. Yeah. And they just interpreted it different and used it different. Quick one. Because you spoke about your previous husband, I think you were too handsome and he was too jealous about you. That's why the marriage failed.
You're so right.
Do a lot of partners, family members, lose enthusiasm for people to go into recovery? People start changing and it's like, I don't know if I like this new person. I like the old alcoholic drug addict a bit more, or at least I knew what I got with. Now I actually have to look at my shit. Because I've spoken to a few people and I've noticed this. Is that also a family type of syndrome? Like, I don't know, like they're not part of the change, the process, or like even they just don't like the new person. Like they fucking like the old alcoholic. Like they hated that person, please change. And then like once they start changing, like, I don't know if I like this one. Do you get that?
We need to accept, and this is something that I've read about, and we studied it when I qualified as both in psychology and in counselling, and it's only dawning on me now, and the practical application of it in my practice is that every one of us functions in a system, and that system is anything at any stage of our lives. You are in a system with your wife and the cats and the dogs. A family is a system.
And the dead tortoise.
and the poor, terrible dead tortoise.
No, it's
But-
probably, yeah.
And each of those units contribute to how the system works. And what happens a lot in addiction is that the addict's behavior start changing the system. So the system start adapting to one very, very unhealthy entity in the system. Let's take a back, for instance. You can work for
My back.
any
Right.
back.
Okay.
You can walk for a very long time with something wrong with your back.
Mm.
And then one day, the whole back goes in spasm.
Mm.
And it could be an injury that happened 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Over a period of time, your body, the system, adapted to the thing that is acting incorrectly.
Mm.
And over a period of time, the system can deal with it. And one day, the dysfunction becomes too much for the system and the system collapses.
Okay.
And the same works in the family system. So what happens often is that the family members learn to act in a certain way to accommodate the addict's behavior, to accommodate the addict in whatever way. And we find many times the mother enables, the father becomes angry, the sister...
Is that the stereotype now?
That's a stereotype. The sister
But
withdraws.
stereotypes comes from
Yeah,
reality.
Exactly, yeah.
The
So-
sister becomes?
Withdrawn
Okay.
or rebellious. But otherwise she doesn't. She's not part of this.
Yeah.
So when the addict is getting help and comes back, you bring a seemingly healthy person into a sick system.
Mm.
The system got sick,
Okay. Yeah.
and then suddenly the system doesn't know how to deal with the healthy part.
It's almost like the bear and the squirrel goes into hibernation if this weather comes. But now this weather doesn't come, and then what do I fucking do now in this heat? Because I'm so used to going into hibernation. Or
Exactly.
even if I don't know, it's something
Yeah.
like that almost.
So the family has now learned a certain set of behaviors over a period of time. And now those behaviors are not needed anymore because the addict doesn't react the way he did. And that's why the latest trend especially in interventions.
What is an intervention?
Okay, cool. An intervention is when, let's say the Tanny calls me on the phone line that I used to work on and says, my son is a drug addict, he has now stolen every single bloody thing of value in the house and we can't deal with him anymore, he needs to get help. And we say, but will he willingly come into rehab? No, never. So I say, okay, so we need to kind of persuade this dude to go and get help. So what you do, you
We
get
continue to talk about guys.
or girls.
There's fucking girls out there that are
Sorry, I'm a sexist. What can I
equally
say?
as naughty
Very, very much
and
so, yeah.
unhealthy.
Yeah. I should have started by saying the male represents the female in this conversation as well. So this is the disclaimer: the male represents the female.
Which one is the fairer sex?
The fairer.
Okay, cool.
So you then arrange with the family to meet with an interventionist, and not everybody can do an intervention. You need to be qualified to do an intervention because it
Okay.
can get very confrontational.
So do you do a short course on how to do
you
an
can
intervention?
do a course on becoming an interventionist.
So intervention is you fucking surprise the
Yes.
addict.
Yeah.
And
then
everyone waits at the house, you have a fucking plan,
absolutely.
and then
And the end
you
result
invite
of
the
that
person,
plan
they
is,
know nothing,
Yeah.
and the end result,
And the end aim is to get the addict into rehab. And
the
that can
end
be-
aim is not to get the addict to admit that they have a problem.
No. At that stage, you want them to agree to go into rehab.
To
Once
consider.
Once they're in rehab,
To consider there's a
No,
problem.
you
Fuck
want
that,
you
just-
want them to go as far as, and that's what the family does. The family put the pressure on him. Kind of, we cannot deal with you any longer.
Family
This
and
is
best friends,
unacceptable.
for example.
Anybody who's close. But you have to be quite careful about whom you invite into the intervention. For instance, a lot of time, as much as mom wants Sissy into rehab, mom is also enabling Sissy.
Mm.
And what you find often is that sissies
Let's use the word daughters.
A daughter.
Because in my
Cool. Oh, yes.
lingo, a sissy means a little pussy boy.
So invariably what happens is mom enables the daughter. And the daughter's dysfunctional behavior enables the mom to do some other not as good stuff. And that's why we often talk about the elephant in the room. And that brings me back to the intervention. So while the whole family is focused on the daughter, mom might be having an affair.
Okay.
And nobody notices because everybody's focused
That's
on
the elephant in the room.
Yes.
You bitch, it's your fault that I'm this sick.
There's actually an amazing book called The Elephant in the Room. I can't remember who the author is.
Okay.
So it is really a nice read. But the new trend in intervention is we don't surprise the addict with a kind of, please come have a cup of coffee, and he walks into the room and everybody's there.
Yeah.
You actually invite them to a conversation with the family to discuss the systems problem.
So how do you phrase it? Hi, Sarah, this is Dad.
Yeah.
Can you please come for coffee on Sunday at 12? Me and the family want to chat to you about how we can figure stuff out.
Exactly, yeah. So not figure out how you're going to get help.
Yeah.
Figure out how we're going to fix you.
But the goal is still to get them in rehab.
Yes.
So you're just being a sly motherfucker.
No. and that's what I like about the new trending interventions is
The new approach.
the new approach.
School
yeah.
of thought.
So yes, exactly. Because what happens now is Sarah comes into the room and the trained interventionist will open the conversation, and the focus isn't on Sarah's problem. The focus is on what's wrong with the system.
The habitat.
Yes.
But doesn't that person walk in? Do you say to that person, we're going to have someone there counselling? Because I'm sure they walk in and it's like, fuck are you?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a far more transparent process.
So
There's no
then-
more the process. There's no more the surprise element. There's no more
That defense
blaming
mechanism that comes in
Yeah.
is complete shutdown. So maybe
Yeah.
if you give them a heads up, they're a little bit
Exactly,
more
yeah.
open towards.
And everybody owns up their stuff. So what happens in this school of thought is that the addict agrees to go into treatment if mom sees the counselor on a regular basis to treat her codependence, dad sees the same counselor on a regular basis to treat his anger issues, brother sees the
We're going in real stereotypical
Yes,
mode
exactly,
here.
yeah. Brother sees the counselor to stop him constantly watching porn in his room and not engaging with anybody.
Yeah.
And the system gets fixed while the addict is in the rehab getting better. So when he comes back, he or she doesn't walk into a sick system. He walks into a system that is far more equipped.
Because I think the old school of thought was the addict, the alcoholic.
Get the
is
motherfucker into treatment.
Is the problem.
Go fix him.
And so in that intervention, as a trained individual, so when someone phones you, or you advertise somewhere as an interventionist.
I'm not an interventionist.
Okay, but
I would
are
love- that's on this
interventionists
here, yeah.
advertised? And then they would say to the people, okay, cool.
Yes.
But just so you know, if I come for the intervention, we're going to look at your shit. So please consider that and let me know
Yeah.
if you're ready for that.
I suppose
Because
that's how it's done in the.
or do
modern
they
trend.
subtly then
Yeah.
come in?
I actually don't know, Madam. That's
Because it's also like, from my experience, if I look at a lot of people I've got to know, it's fuck. The addict is responsible and has to take responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see how the people accusing the addict or alcoholic is the last people to go look at how am I contributing?
absolutely.
How am I triggering?
Yeah.
And it's just expectation, and then it's judgment. And a lot of times, yes, they deserve that. But still,
Yeah.
it's a two-way street. The one has maybe 80% and the other one 20%. And it's fascinating to see. I've met a lot of people, they actually gone through treatment or something. And the enthusiasm that they come out with and the quick fall back to fucking nothing because nothing's changed around them.
Exactly. So the modern trend is let's change the system. Let's see if we can get the person back into a healthier system.
Are a lot of addicts let's say addiction people, because the other one that I failed to mention earlier is overeaters.
Yeah.
People that sleep too much, people that escape in
Yeah.
fucking books or something. My
TV
wife,
series,
TV
the
series.
cell phones, screen addiction. We call it digital cocaine.
yeah, social media.
Yeah.
Which is the other question I'm going to ask you. So one question, what does the actual porn or the social media, what does that release that gives you that euphoria? So that's one question. The other thing that I spoke to somebody about, with which I understand, I did psychology 112 and 144. I did first year psychology. So I can't talk from, a deep understanding of the variety of schools of thoughts. Because, if you take like someone that's homosexual, chromosome X, were they born that way? Did they have daddy issues, mommy issues? Were there just traumatic experiences with the opposite sex? Now, I spoke to somebody and they were having relationship problems, and I've spoken to many people over years, and then I'm like, and it somehow comes up that some relationship with the father or with the mother. I had a lady fucking 10 years ago, and if I look at the similarities with the way she had a relationship with her father, with me, there are trends, if you want to admit it or not. And so can you explain that? And then how does that contribute to sometimes people having the addiction? Because I'm sure the relationship with the parents has a massive influence if the person becomes an addict or alcoholic. Do you believe an addict or alcoholic is born or created?
Oh, my word. That's an interesting question.
Gay people, born or created, or both?
Born.
Bisexual people, born or created?
Born.
This is obviously your own opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Freddy can talk about it. It's like Ali G can joke about fucking Jews. I can joke about the Afrikaners. Freddy can joke about the gay people. So born.
I believe so, yeah.
That's why Lady Gaga's song Born This Way is so popular.
Born this way. Yes, absolutely. Maybe it's an interesting question, but
so alcoholics born or created?
I very quickly said born.
Yeah.
But I think we, like anything in life, we are born with the ability to develop it.
Okay.
Schizophrenia, for instance.
Yeah.
You are born with the what's the word I'm looking for?
The ability to predisposition, yeah.
And what you invariably need is the trigger.
So we all can develop cancer, but genetically some people are more prone to cancer if they're not careful than others.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah. That's why in addiction, one of the first things we ask people is to draw us a family tree.
And
so
is genes...
And what we see is the addiction through the family.
But if you say that, is that genetics that run through, or is that behavior patterns or culture?
That's exactly.
That's been a lineage of bad coping mechanisms, like
bad decision makers.
I don't cry.
Exactly.
So that I don't cry develops this bottle up of emotions, and that normally develops into unhealthy stuff. And then 3 generations later, let's start drinking, and then 3 generations later. Absolutely. Is that what you basically mean?
Yes. So we get born into a dysfunctional system. So what do you are predisposed.
So what do we say at the moment for people that are listening that have alcoholic or addict children, and this is a tough pill to swallow? Because I'm sure some people are looking and they're like, what the fuck are you guys saying? You say, this is my fault.
No.
So what's the message? Take a deep breath. If you really... No, but I know we laugh, but this is actually serious. Take a deep breath. Relax. And consider that you have maybe contributed. Yeah. And this is quite hard. It's not your fault. It's also everyone's just trying the best.
Yes.
It's maybe only 2% contribution. 90-80% is with that fucker. But, because Seth said the other day, cancer is basically your fault if you get it. Like 10% of cancer is genetics. 90% is you just didn't live healthy. And we also had a moment of... Let's just take a second here, because this is a tough pill to swallow for some people. Okay, so coming back.
I think the most important thing here is that I'm getting back to the system, is we all live as part of a system. And we as parents were also part of a system. And invariably, our coping mechanisms were learnt, and we are going to live those coping mechanisms in our own family. And if they were non-functional in your family of origin, then chances are that they're going to be non-functional now as well. And I'm going to use myself as an example. It took me a lot of therapy to figure out that my parents did fantastically with me. They did their absolute best. My family never ever warned me against drugs or against men. And look at me today. I'm a homosexual drug addict.
So guys, there's an alarm going off.
How do you want to deal with that?
I think let's pause.
Okay.
All right, so we back after that little alarm, and it's actually only been 2 minutes, which I'm super grateful for, because I thought we're gonna lose the vibe.
Yes.
I actually did forget what we were talking about.
We were
the
talking
lineage.
I'm very aware of what we're talking about. We're talking about my parents.
Oh yeah.
So what I realized was that I'm the youngest of 4 children, and we're all 2 years apart. So what often happens, especially in modern society, is that times really change very, very quickly, and things change quickly. I mean, you and I don't know about you, but I grew up without television. Yeah, and look where we are today. So you take, if I have to apply the rules to my children that I learned from my parents, they are going to be highly, highly inefficient. And I can't do that. And that's what happens invariably with parents, is they take what they were taught and they apply it. And you end up not equipping your child efficiently for life.
Okay.
And that is what I experienced when I entered life. I felt not equipped for life.
So although your parents did a fantastic job, unfortunately,
Exactly, yeah.
a couple of key points that would have been nice weren't there.
Totally so. And it took
But
me
it's
a long
not like
time
they
to
built
take,
the Titanic and fucked up the Titanic.
Yeah.
It's just like
exactly,
a couple of things could have helped you, but it's still not their fault.
Yeah. So for
So
instance,
where do you draw the line with I'm ill-equipped and... Is it almost like, because I spoke now to the army veteran today.
yes.
So shit goes wrong and you have to take responsibility. And he said also earlier, like, I don't put myself into dangerous situations. So it's almost like I'm climbing Mount Everest. I'm equipped to a certain point. Then I reach a level where I'm ill-equipped.
Yeah.
And I actually have a decision to make if I'm continuing or not.
Exactly.
And then if you continue, yes, you are not equipped for that. So is it something similar to that? So you have to make a decision at some point if you're going to go over the edge or not.
And
Is it something like that?
I think so. For instance, I grew up in a family where we were not allowed to fight.
Okay.
As children, we weren't allowed to fight with each other.
Like physically or verbally?
Not at all.
Any
no
fighting?
aggression, no anger, no nothing.
Is that passive aggressiveness or what is that?
Well, that taught me manipulation,
Okay.
because I couldn't get my way by asserting myself.
Okay.
So I had to get my way somehow in a different way.
So you're not allowed to slam your door
No.
if you're angry?
No.
Fucking crazy.
No. So the first time that I entered the private sector in a working environment, I worked in an environment where people worked on commission.
Okay.
And the previous day was payday. And I sit at my desk, and here's this huge fight breaking out between everybody in this open plan office. You get paid on my client, and last month was the same, and you didn't go and change the name to my name. And there's this whole huge fight between everybody. And I'm sitting there thinking, do I have to on a monthly basis go and fight for my money? I was never taught to assert myself, to be aggressive, to fight, to raise my voice, to whatever. I can't do this. I am not equipped.
Okay, but how does that then contribute to
Self-esteem.
like prostitution or fucking sex addict or alcoholism? So how does that thing contribute you then going? Because I'm sure a lot of people are trying to understand this, maybe family members. How does that then escalate?
So the process in my head is that I'm not good enough for this.
Okay.
And the minute that thought comes up, we're dealing with an esteem issue.
Okay.
Most addicts that I've dealt with have...
So when we speak addicts, we talk about anyone with any form of addiction, gambling, sex.
Totally so.
Co-dependency, love, overeaters. There's self-esteem problems.
Yes. And so the issue was, for me in that situation, I'm not equipped to do this, but I'm here.
Okay.
I need to somehow make this work. So I became this extremely nice guy. I was just so nice to everybody, so that I don't have to fight with you at the end of the month and can go to you and say, did you get paid on Mrs. Deval again?
Yeah.
And that, yes, sorry, I'm going to fix it. So they won't fight with me because I'm just so fucking nice.
So you were dishonest and a people pleaser for a month in order to get what you want, rather than having that 5-minute fight at the end of the month.
Instead of just being myself, confronting the person at the end of the month and getting my fucking money.
Okay.
So what that boils down to is that I started believing that I'm not good enough. I'm not equipped to live life in that environment.
Okay.
And that started a process of, I'm not equipped. Then I look at which other parts of my life do I feel ill-equipped. And then I look at guys who are big and strong. And I think, how am I ever going to get a boyfriend? This is what I am. This is my competition.
Yeah.
I'm ill-equipped to be in a relationship.
So if we okay, let's not use the word I. Let's use the word they. Or these. So if you look at alcoholics or addicts, symptoms, characteristics. So one characteristic is low self-esteem. Like, what would be other types of things that you're feeling? Because what I'm assuming is that the act of using your substance is taking away the shit that you feel.
Yes,
one,
absolutely.
low self-esteem. We said earlier, like emptiness, a void. Like, what other stuff is there?
What we see very, very often with addicts is self-pity.
Okay. For example, poor me, my dad's an arsehole. Poor
exactly.
me.
Nobody understands me.
Okay. Which brings me probably to loneliness because nobody understands me.
Exactly.
Okay.
We also find with addicts a lot is that they can feel extremely lonely in a group of people.
Okay.
And a lot of addicts, one of our biggest challenges is to get them out and engage with life. Because what they did was, instead of trying to engage with life where they felt so uncomfortable and so ill-equipped to deal with life, they just rather withdrew.
And it's that weird thing, what you put out, you'll sometimes get back. So if you say, for example, to people, this is me, the chances you might actually get something like that back.
Yeah.
So if they start saying, I might have a problem with alcohol, they actually might meet people that have a problem with alcohol. But if you want to keep it a secret, you'll always be in this weird, lonely...
Absolutely.
And then pretending is probably a big thing. Like I have to pretend that I'm okay.
Masks.
Okay, is that the official term?
Yeah, we wear masks for the occasions. For instance, my mother said to me, when I went into treatment and I spoke about my self-confidence, and she said to me, but you were always so confident. And I pretended to be confident. The one thing I remember about childhood, teenage, early adulthood was extreme fear.
Okay.
Also a very, very big characteristic of addicts is they feel afraid because they feel not okay to deal with life.
And this fear of rejection, where does that come from?
Absolutely.
Because I see some people take on stuff and they like, fuck, again, France was sitting here talking about going to Afghanistan. And he says, basically at no point for 9 years I was scared.
Yeah.
Like I was just excited.
Oh, my word, man.
It's a fucking journey.
Yeah.
And some people, I said to him, actually, I think you're high on the sociopath, psychopath scale. And he's like, a few people have actually said that. But I do see some people, I know some people maybe don't express fear, they all have it, but I do notice in some people that they're not as scared as some people, or everyone's scared, but some people are fucking terrified. You know, just asking the lady out in the bar, you know, applying for the job, going for the job interview. Yeah. Like I was terrified when I went to England. I was poor, didn't know, going alone. I threw up a few days before, and only later did I realize I'm not sick. It was just nerves. But so where does this fear of rejection and fear of failure come from? Is that again like fear of rejection is from your parents?
It all feeds back to esteem.
And whose responsibility is it to teach you esteem? Your school, what do you, or like
healthy esteem? The seed gets planted by our parents.
Yeah, just pull this one a bit closer to you and then just move that thing a bit. Just move that. Yeah, that's fine. Better? Yeah.
So healthy esteem, the seed is planted by your parents.
Yeah.
That whole thing of you're okay. You are loved and accepted as you are.
Okay.
That is starting to create a healthy esteem. For instance, for me as the youngest child of 4, I never got that feeling that I'm loved and accepted as I am.
But you still say that your parents did a fantastic job.
I now realize that they did, yeah.
Because my parents also, I can't ask for better parents.
Yes.
I love my parents. I obviously have really strong disagreements in a variety of facets.
Yes.
But, I think also for me, be seen, not heard. That was a big problem for me. I wasn't allowed to express my opinion in a variety of ways. And because I have strong belief in myself, but I also have strong insecurities in myself. And it's even like now, a kid drove into me with his bicycle. He's wrong. It's probably 10 to 15,000 rand damage.
Oh, my word.
And now I'm scared to contact his dad, and I'm like, his dad's not going to pay it. And it's like, where does this come from? Yes. And why am I worrying about this? And I'm not wrong for saying to him that your kid is wrong. Yeah. And I'm like, and I think it relates back to a lot of times when I was a kid, that happened. I think also having siblings, and a lot of times they were manipulative little shits, and they will get you into trouble. And a lot of times I was wrong. Generally I'm wrong, okay, because I'm naughty. But a lot of times I wasn't, and then I'll get fucking tuned or disciplined, and it's like, this isn't me, or you're not looking at my side. And sometimes, now I understand why a lot of my friends don't want to have kids, because they're like, it's a real serious job, and I'm not, and it's fantastic. They say, I'm not equipped to be a father. Plus, I don't want to. Plus, I don't think it's fair. There's a variety of reasons why people don't want to have children. And I'm like, it is a lot. And I think even in this day and age where I hate the patriarchal society, but at least there you had a fucking full-time mom that was present. Nowadays, it's like mom and dad's working. No one's present. We need to hire a nanny. I don't know if this is making sense and comes back to your point of how you have fantastic parents, but low self-esteem comes from that.
The issue is extremely complex, and we're trying to make it as simple as possible for the purpose of this conversation. But what happens a lot is that an event happens in the child's life. So when we look at addiction recovery, we look for the trauma. We try to find what was the event in the child's life that made them start believe that they're not good enough, where the self-esteem problem started, where a lot of times what happens is the child starts believing that their needs won't be met. And then we're talking classic Maslow theory, the hierarchy of needs.
Can I give you a quick example?
Yeah.
So under 13, one of the big things when we were in Ekerstad Primary 1 year you'll go to Johannesburg to go play there. So it was a school thing. And we had a rugby team and we were fucking good mates and we were this group and it was like, we're going to go to Johannesburg on the rugby tour. Then, unfortunately, I got Western Province Craven Week rugby. And the reason I say unfortunately is now I had to play with guys that I didn't like. Yeah. There wasn't this camaraderie. There was this ego thing.
Guys used to play against.
Yeah, and I just didn't dig the vibe. I was like, I'm playing rugby because I enjoy it. Then the Craven Week was overlapping with this tour in Johannesburg. And all I wanted to do as a 13-year-old is go to Joburg. Yeah. And I was told, fuck you. Not fuck you, but it was basically like, you're not going.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't know what's good for you. And I know my parents know what's better for me. But still, I'm 34 now. I still prefer to have gone to that whole experience of just... You don't have a say. Don't argue with me. Even a year later, I got Boland Athletics. Again, I didn't want to go. I didn't enjoy it. Like you go to like Paul Roos, you have to attend the athletics where everyone does it. And then, fuck, I won the shot put. Now I have to go to the Boland stuff. Yeah. And it's like, I just did it because I had to. And I don't want to fucking do the sport. And it's like, no, but you have to go do it. And there's so many things that I had to do. I had to go to church, which I didn't like. I had to do this, which I didn't like. And it's like, is that what we're talking about?
That's exactly the stuff we're talking about. In my life, for instance, what happened for me, what we discovered was my trauma, was at a very young age, at the age of 5, I realized that I'm different. And that was my sexuality starting to form. But I grew up in church, where homosexuality was wrong. Not that I even knew what was happening with me at that stage. But at the age of 5, I knew that I was different. And my head kept on telling me that I'm different. And whatever this difference is, it's wrong. And it makes me a bad person. And that gave me the belief that I'm unworthy of having my needs met. Bad people don't get things in life. Bad people don't have their needs met.
Okay. They die at the end of the movie.
Yes. So from then on, what do? You don't ask for your needs to be met. You manipulate. You don't ask. You hide. You whatever. You put a mask on and say, when you do ask for your needs to be met, it's with bravado and with extra assertiveness, because you don't know what healthy assertiveness and what healthy esteem is.
But why do addicts find it difficult to ask for help? Or why do people find it difficult to ask for help? I find it fascinating. It's like...
That is one of the amazing dichotomies of addiction, is because we're afraid that our needs won't be met.
So it's again this fear of rejection almost.
Yes.
In this moment of need, can you please help me? I have low self-esteem, so I don't know if you're going to help me.
Yeah.
But I've had situations where I've asked for help and then people don't help you. So I stopped asking those people for help. And I've actually said when they came back to me, it's like, why are you quiet? It's like, I fucking asked you for help. Yeah. And I asked you for help for something really serious and you weren't there.
So that started the process of Marva's needs won't be met.
Okay.
So therefore I'm not even going to ask.
So addicts or people in general, at certain moments in their life, they've asked for help for a variety of stuff. Yeah. And again, well, like we said earlier, that one person will experience the car crash like this, the other one not. So normally the addict alcoholic will be like, well, this is a severe thing.
Yes.
Rejection.
Yeah.
And that is much bigger. Yes. Although we all experience that.
Yeah. The addict invariably functions on the opposite end of a continuum, whatever that continuum is.
Okay.
We don't function in normality where the grey area is. We're either in the white or the black. Things aren't okay, they're either really good or really bad.
But they're not bipolar.
They're not bipolar, no.
Although they have bipolar tendencies or symptoms.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between what I'm talking about now and bipolar. I want to give you an example. For instance, I was a very good athlete in my teenage years.
Yeah.
And I would go to South African championships and I would run the heat in the morning of the hurdles normally, and then qualify for the finals. And I would spend the time between the heat and the finals mostly in the toilet throwing up.
Okay.
Being as sick as a dog from stress. Well,
although doing well.
although doing really well.
And you're at the South African Championships,
Yeah.
which means you're at top
Exactly.
20 in the country.
Well, the guy that runs the lane next to me will exactly go through that. Wow, I made the final of SS. I'm so excited to run in this final. This is going to be awesome.
But aren't you more intelligent maybe than that person? That he doesn't have the capability to think
I
about
always
that.
wanted to think that way as well. Again, for me, the way I got accepted, the way I felt that I get acceptance in life was through performing well in athletics. So the doing well in that event had a complete different meaning for me
That affirmation we
than
spoke about.
than for the guy next door.
But
Yeah.
what is the affirmation? The medal or the adulation from the
Euro
crowd, from the people, from the friends back at school,
All of those things.
all of the above?
The Euro-K, yeah.
And then and then if you're an addict, like you said last time, the withdrawal.
Yeah.
So like 2 days later or 2 hours later, nobody cares a fuck.
Yeah.
And then that whole process begins again of I need to accomplish something.
Yes. To give you the extreme that I functioned in was one year I ran the heats at the South African Championships, and I had something like a 0.4 advantage ahead of any of my
And that was over a short
that
distance.
was of 110 meter hurdles.
So that's massive.
That's a shitload.
Yeah.
I was by far the favorite to
It's like
to
30
win.
meters or 20 meters or something.
Possibly about. I will.
Oh no, sorry,
will
5
cross
to
the-
10 meters.
I will cross the line when they go over the last hurdle.
Yeah, sorry, it's
Um,
the top ones are 10 meters per second. So, I
So-
got that wrong.
And I go into the final and I fall over the first hurdle. And
Why?
I kicked away so hard at the start that my blocks slipped.
Ah,
And I ended up too far from the first hurdle, and I knocked the first hurdle. Yeah. That margin of error.
and why
is-
did you
is
kick
that
too
one.
hard?
Because this is so important.
You were
to me.
so
this
pumped
is
up.
my moment.
Ah, okay.
And now the season ended because SAs is over, and after a month we start training again. And I would start training. Every training session I would be sick, physically ill. I would throw up. And
Because you expect this thing to happen again.
we don't know. So I go to doctor, eventually end up at the hospital where an internist agreed to do a set of blood tests and everything. They do every single test on earth. They cannot find anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
Eventually the guy sits me down and says to me, "Are you sure this isn't mental?"
Hmm.
And that night, now I'm second year varsity, and I was sitting making notes, and it suddenly dawned on me, you know what? You need to decide whether you want to continue running or not.
Is it worth
That's
it?
the issue, yes. Is it worth it? That trauma made me sick.
Of
the-
that one hurdle that you clipped.
Unexpected, the unfulfilled expectation.
Mm.
I didn't get the adulation, the affirmation. That's everything I worked for a whole year. Fell apart in 0.7 of a second.
And somebody else would have used that as motivation to
Yes.
do better. Somebody else
Exactly.
would have been like, I'm a
Yeah.
competitor, but fucking tough luck.
So what does Freddy Head tells him? See, you're not worthy. You've never been worthy
You
of
dumb motherfucker, you should have checked the blocks
Yeah.
better or something. Like,
You're just not worthy of being the best.
then
You're
that
never going to get-
self-pity-
no, you're never going to get what you want. You're a useless piece of shit. People are going to hate you for always. You
and
just-
then you go back into that void. And is that then a conscious effort to like go into... So let's say the addict goes into that. So like use your example. Will the addict then go like, okay, I need to get rid of these feelings. I need to change now who I am. Because I've heard the term geographical,
Yeah.
which means, okay, maybe if I move somewhere
Exactly,
else, I won't have these
Yeah.
problems. I can redevelop who I am.
Yeah. The typical thing would be that if I move to Cape Town and people don't know me there won't be this expectation on me to perform.
Okay.
So therefore, I moved down to Cape Town. But it was never the people's expectation that was about performance. It was my own expectation. I felt I needed to perform to be accepted.
And then the new ventures you undertake, you still feel like you need to perform
Exactly, yeah.
inevitably.
The same thing happens over and over
And you
and
need
over
that
again, yeah.
affirmations and stuff. And then
Totally
at what
so.
point does the addict be like, okay, let me drink, let me take drugs?
I hate this feeling of feeling like this. And
like
then
there's noise in my head or
there's
what?
noise in my head, I hate
Is there
feeling
like
that I'm
this
not good
actual
enough.
feeling that you feel?
It's a
I
physical...
don't like my life. I don't
Yeah.
like me, or what is it?
Exactly. I started drinking when I stopped running,
Okay.
because the minute that I stopped running, the void that the running was filling
Okay.
became the void again.
Yeah.
And I was left with a void. And what filled the void? When I took my first drink,
Yeah.
I felt all this tension I've been feeling all my life. I'm feeling all relaxed now.
Because I read now that a lot of like athletes that are world champs or whatever, once they retire, they suffer from severe depression and a variety of stuff. And I think I think a lot of it is probably, if I had to speculate, that life becomes boring. But I think a lot of them is like for 15 years,
I filled
all
the
of
void.
this replaced the shit.
Exactly.
I was the my sponsors, my managers, the people, and
Yeah.
then I listened to this TED talk about Rodney Mullen, which was this world famous and still is skateboarder.
Okay.
And he said the weird thing of is like he's won world championships and fucking in the industry he's like one of the godfathers. And he's like, it's that weird thing of you go to like an exhibition and everyone's like, fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, you climb in your car, 2 minutes later, nobody knows you and nobody gives a fuck. And you just, you.
Yeah.
You know? So, and I think that's maybe what a lot of these
Very
professional
much so.
athletes experience.
Yeah.
That's probably what these addicts or alcoholics experience. Once they get off that high, they sit with themselves.
Yes.
But then I've heard
Exactly
this
that.
term of functional. I've seen friends that use Coke, and I don't see them as addicts.
Yeah.
I've seen people smoke weed. I don't see them as addicts. I see people drink. I don't see them as
Exactly.
alcoholics. What's the difference between an actual addict and a functioning, like where do you draw the line between that? So if there's people looking and they're like, I don't know if I'm an alcoholic or addict or whatever, how do you...
I think to start with, we're back to the tolerance withdrawal thing.
Okay.
So if you I reached a point where I had to use more drugs than my partner to get the same high.
Okay.
And once we stopped, he could go to bed and sleep while I had the need to use more, because the void was back when the drugs was gone. While he didn't have the void to fill. He could move on with his life. That's the one thing. The other thing is, I always jokingly thought in my head, but how can celebrities, like in rich movie stars, end up in rehab?
Yeah.
Well, surely you only go to rehab when the money runs out. That's truly what I thought.
Yeah.
But what ultimately takes those people into rehab is the brain process that we go through, this constant obsession
Yeah.
that we're stuck in. Normal people the normal drug user will go out, buy a gram of Coke, have a wonderful evening, go and work the full week, and yes, he will feel the down on the Tuesday, but he won't think of buying Coke to get out of the down, because he doesn't have the void that the Coke fills for me.
So it's almost like you drink a glass of wine out of relaxation and it's a form of just chilling out, versus drinking a glass of wine because hopefully after I drink it, it takes me away from myself. Is that
Yes.
basically it?
Yes.
Because my wife drinks sometimes a gin and tonic, and I'm like, the way she drinks a gin and tonic, I love it. Like the way she drinks a glass of wine, like. But exactly the same situation,
Yeah.
you might be.
Absolutely.
What is, like earlier I asked you, what is the experience physically that people get when they watch porn or social media that makes it addictive? Like what happens where that gets them literally addicted, and do they get like physical withdrawal if they don't get it? So can you explain that?
It's exactly the pleasure center in the brain gets stimulated in the same way for the person who needs that hit. Again, we are dealing with one person can get 5,000 likes on a picture in social media, and it has, oh, look, I've got 5,000 likes, because he's got a good self-esteem and he's quite okay with himself. Another person will get 5 likes and go, yes, the likes have a different meaning to him, the allergy. And he wants more of that. The pleasure center in the brain gets stimulated in the same way as a hit of cocaine. And that becomes addictive to the person who needs.
So it's actually the
That's
almost
why,
the same.
That's why we call the digital addiction, we call it digital cocaine.
That's almost more like, because I got off cigarettes 5 years ago, and it was fairly easy for me. I must say, like it's one of the
Was that easy for you?
Yeah, it's one of
For
the
me,
easier.
that was more difficult than drugs and alcohol.
That was one of the easier things I've done, because I just never attempted it.
Okay.
So once I was like, I don't want to smoke anymore, I just stopped smoking. I had like I had a brother dying of cancer, looking like a skeleton. That made it a lot easier.
Okay, yeah.
But it's like when somebody lifts a car, and they had that fucking adrenaline. Let me save this. Like it's like weirdly like easy. I think I just hit the right moment in my life where I was like, whatever. I have no fucking idea why I started talking about that.
I don't know as well.
I don't know. I
so
just
much active listening.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's interesting to look at people. Some have a problem, some don't.
Yeah.
Some can leave certain characteristics, some can't. Oh yeah, and we were talking about
Stimulation in the brain.
the thing getting released here. I know it's like with my podcast. Like when I started it, it's like, oh, I've got a podcast. I've got the website, I've got the Facebook page, I've got the YouTube channel, and then in the beginning it's like, how many people like it? How many, is there any comments? And then after a while I'm like, I just don't fucking care.
Exactly.
Like, whatever. Like if you're gonna like it or not, if I have like 50 views or 100 or whatever, I just got to the point like it's just so much effort to keep track of all of that. But I'm sure other people, they get this real hit, and I can relate. Like I've had it where I was checking it. I was like, ooh, this is exciting. It's like, I want to go check my Facebook later. So that's basically it. And there's like an actual physical release of something, and that gets addictive.
Totally so.
And that's, and I want to talk about cigarettes. I find is difficult to leave because the repercussions aren't that severe and drastic probably as alcohol. It's not like you go cold turkey from heroin. It's like, fuck, this is dangerous. It's not like cigarettes does that. And I'm sure it's even more difficult with a telephone. It's so much more subtle.
Exactly. A big problem with, I'm going to address two things at the same time, I think, is a big problem. A lot of people, there is something called Nicotine Anonymous.
Okay.
I know in Cape Town, a lot of people have tried to start a Nicotine Anonymous meeting. It didn't happen. People struggle they see their powerlessness over nicotine because they know that every 20 minutes or every half hour, every hour they need to smoke a cigarette. But they struggle to find the unmanageability. They struggle to see how it makes their lives unmanageable. And it's because a lot of us struggle to think, we all always think that this won't happen to me.
What, like cancer, for example?
Like lung cancer won't happen to me. It's just one of those things. Is hijacking.
Yeah.
A car hijacking, it doesn't happen to me. It happens to other people until it happens to you. So that's the nature of the human spirit, is it won't happen to me. And that makes getting people off cigarettes so difficult. Do
people see you to get off cigarettes? Not really.
We get a lot of. I haven't had that, but because we get a lot of people. We got a lot of people into the helpline to say, I want to get off cigarettes. And the big problem with that is you can't send that person to rehab because most people in rehab smoke.
Okay.
So they nearly get more confronted.
It's like the worst place in the world.
Exactly.
There's less people smoking at the office.
Yeah. So you can't send that person to rehab.
And does this hypnotism shit work?
Not as far as I know.
And something I heard is that you can take this thing that stops you drinking, or like you get terribly sick if you drink. What's that called? Do you know that?
Yes.
Anti-something.
Anti-booze.
Does that work?
No. Because the behavior doesn't change.
I don't drink because I fear of getting sick rather than I stop drinking because I want to. Is it something like that?
Is the tablet that I take once a day or the implant in my skin going to give me self-esteem? No. I'm going to
okay.
continue behaving the same way. I'm going to continue reacting to life in the same way as I did. So the need to drink isn't going to go away. All I'm doing is I'm white-knuckling the fear of being sick. We need... Addiction treatment is getting people to change the way they think so they can act differently. Cognitive behavioral therapy.
So if you think differently, do you feel different?
When you think differently...
What comes first,
you
the
can
chicken
start-
or the egg? Like,
we get the person to think differently because then they act differently and then they feel different.
okay. And where does neurological pathways fit into this whole discussion? Because I know we've talked about that and I like it, and I've spoken to my psychologist about that. For example, my predisposition to get angry with traffic. And I spoke about it earlier, about visualizing people cutting me off, visualizing my response. Where does that fit into the addict or the alcoholic that wants to change their lives?
It is...
And I've heard, is it true that sex addicts find it more difficult, or it's a longer process to become happy or clean or something?
As a rule, your process addictions, your non-chemical addictions. So we classify addiction as the chemical addictions, drugs and alcohol, and the process addictions. Food, love and sex, gambling, codependence, and those type of things. The process addictions are normally more difficult to get better from because it is so part of us. It's not something we can put down.
Okay.
We cannot not eat. I have a vast amount of sympathy for overeaters or for people with eating disorders. To have an unhealthy relationship with such a normal, natural thing.
That's everywhere.
It's extremely
length
difficult.
away.
Yes. The same with sex. We are sexual beings. We were created sexual beings. And now I've got a problem with the way, with what I was created as.
It's almost like workaholics too.
Yes.
So normal to work, but at which point?
Yeah. When is it healthy? When is it unhealthy? When is it healthy to have a meal and when is it unhealthy to have a meal? That type of thing. But neurological pathways. So the way I explain it to people is the Grand Canyon was formed over years and years and years and years and years and years of water taking a certain path, and it forms the canyon eventually. In our heads, the way I see it is, when a car cuts you off, you get angry. That starts a neurological pathway. Cut off, anger, cut off, anger, cut off, anger. And the more you do it, the deeper that canyon in the more ingrained the neurological pathway is formed. What I need to do as your counselor is I need you to roll a boulder in front of the entrance of the canyon and say, Madhva, from today on, you need to take a different route. You can't allow cut off to shoot down the anger pathway. We need to find a different pathway.
Okay.
So invariably what I say is, cut off, 3 seconds. So the guy cuts up, instead of jumping down the anger pathway, say, okay, before I'm going to react, I'm going to take 3 seconds and decide what is the appropriate response.
Well, what if the 3 seconds isn't working? Because, for example, I had an incident with my family the other day. And I had to drive 15 minutes to get to them after I heard that they did something. For that 15 minutes, I told myself, I probably shouldn't be doing this. I probably shouldn't be doing this. I probably shouldn't be doing this. And it's like 5 seconds, just breathe. Okay, cool. 5 seconds later, it's like, that motherfuckers. So, and I'm sure, like, if you take now the addict or alcoholic, they say this, like, we're talking about cutting off in traffic, but I'm sure there's, let's say your boss is a dick, now you feel like drinking, or I think relationships is a big thing probably for addicts and alcoholics. That's probably the biggest trigger. So something happens.
Romances and finances.
That's quite cool. I've never heard that.
No, cool.
So now they feel like drinking. Automatic response. So how does the neurological pathway fit in here? And let's say they are visioning or trying to think, and then 5 seconds later, it's like, I still want to fucking drink. I still want to watch porn. Or like, what do you do there?
The interesting thing you did the other day was the trigger was what your family did.
Yeah.
In order to, you tried to not engage with the trigger by moving closer to the trigger.
Okay.
What you should have done was, instead of driving to them, you should have driven away from them.
So driving wasn't the problem. It was the direction
It was
of
the direction that you drove that was the problem. Remove yourself from the situation. That's why in addiction recovery, it's extremely important to know what the triggers are, so that we can know how to deal with the trigger.
So if you climb into the car because something triggered you and you want to go drink or you want to go score or something, that's not a problem. Just drive to someone, or
drive in 12-step programs. We say drive to your sponsor, drive to your friend in recovery.
Okay.
You know how we always say use the phone. We all use the phone to call the dealer. We now need to teach the addict to use the phone, but to dial a different number. His sponsor, his friend in recovery.
Yeah.
A different neuro pathway.
Because I spoke to France, the army guy, earlier, and he also said, because I asked him, like, you look fucking cool after 9 years of professional career of a soldier. Like, what do you think? And he said, like, obviously having a wife, cool partner. But he also says, hanging out with people that also went to the war, and finding people that think the same. And it's probably like a support network. He said about discipline, routine, structure, continue to work out, do all the same things, and find stuff that fills your time. And so I'm sure with the drug addict or the alcoholic, it's also probably that of...
Addiction recovery is... I have a holistic approach to it. I need to look at everything you do. Invariably, when I see a client for the first time, I talk about how much do you sleep, how much do you work, what do you eat, what meals do you eat, what time do you wake up in the mornings, what do you do when you wake up, what exercise do you get, how often do you get, do you have a healthy relationship with exercise?
How's the relationship? What's this? Relationships and finances.
Exactly. What romance and finances. How's your financial situation? How's your home situation?
Yeah.
How's your spiritual situation?
Yeah.
Because what happens often is that in addiction recovery, we need to fill the void, and we can't fill the void with another addiction.
But let's say now we get, because I'm fucking nailing you here now, because...
Is that why I'm sweating so much? I don't feel as if I'm going to do a oral exam. I'm not sure I would have passed this one, by the way.
No, but we're just checking it. But it's like, so let's use the codependency one, because I feel that is also a lot more difficult. It's a bit more concrete when you look at the fucking sex addict, the gambling, because the codependent person gets treated like shit, but they want to somehow go back to that person. So is it exactly the same? Just drive to somebody that actually cares about you, because it's almost like the drug or the drug won't make you feel better. Maybe now. So the codependent person is, I just want to get back to the person I broke up with 24 hours ago. I heard a story earlier this week. Guy had somehow this fucking chick went fucking batshit crazy, threw something at him. He was just like, fuck you. Like, we've been dating 6 months. This is not cool. Yeah. Pack your shit and leave. 24 hours later, she's like, fuck you. Okay, cool. 24 hours later, she's sitting on the couch crying. I'm like, please take me back. And I'm like, that's probably unhealthy people, codependent, And so it's also like, pick up the phone, drive to someone different.
Very, very much the same situation. The difficult thing with codependence is that there isn't really a definition for codependence. Or the fellowship of codependence doesn't want to define codependence. What they rather say is, here's a list of characteristics of things that codependent people do. Read through the list and see if a lot of these resonate with you. And then you can say you're a codependent. Okay. Because there are so many different ways in which codependent presents itself in our daily lives.
Okay.
That we can't say this is codependence, that is codependence. And there are also various forms of codependency. We classify it in 4 or 5 different categories, of which I don't know. One is controlling, which I am. I'm a controlling codependent.
Okay.
I try to control my environment to make me feel safe.
Okay.
If I don't have control over the environment, I don't feel safe. I fucking will hate it. And then you get also, for instance, the affirmation one. That's the wrong word. It's not affirmation. We used the word earlier. Let's use affirmation for the time being.
Okay.
Is I need you to tell me that I'm okay. I need you to show me that I'm okay.
Yeah.
So the codependence in that regard is that...
Adulation? Is that no, that's not the word.
It was another word.
Okay, whatever.
I'll get
But
to
before
it.
you get to that, you
It's
say you like to control people.
Yeah.
Is there
Control
codependence
situations.
that likes to be controlled? Because like I know with my wife, I'm this fucking crazy guy that will lose his shit sometimes. So she says I'm a retard for that, but I know behind that phrase she is loving it that if shit hits the fan, I'm going to protect her.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a codependent that likes to control, but then there's the codependent that likes...
That will be the helpless one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Kind of, I can't rescue me.
okay,
The victim.
okay.
Yes.
The victim, that's something,
Yeah.
the poor me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't get out of this.
I can't. I need you. I need rescuing. I need helping. I need affirming.
Because that's something that helps me a lot in my life is whatever I experience, I try to sometimes tell myself there are many people in this world that have experienced worse things, that has experienced this in a worse way.
Yeah.
Like somebody stole money from my business 4 years ago. It was 10,000 Rand. So what I said to myself is there was another, he stole money from another company. He stole 1 million Rand from them.
Oh my God.
So it's like, you know, my brother died, but I knew about it. I was preparing for that, where fucking somebody else's, like I know in the football world at the moment, Cardiff bought a football player, he flew over and his fucking plane crashed.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what happened, or the plane just disappeared. Like
They found him now, by the way.
I know,
Yes.
I found it, they found the body, and it's just, there's always somebody with a worse experience. So that's what I try to tell myself after a day or two or a week of feeling sorry for myself.
Not a week. I like that. Or a month.
20 years later, coming
something
out
like-
of the cave with
something
my
like
beard,
that, yeah.
it's like, okay. Or it could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been, exactly. What we try to do is I try to get my clients to accept what is. Because a big problem with addicts' codependence is they struggle to accept what is.
Yeah.
They want to change things. They want to change the way they feel.
Yeah.
They want to change the fact that this happened. They want to ignore the fact that this happened.
Yeah.
Well, if you can just come to a point of acceptance, that it's okay. I'm still alive. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a sense of spirit. A sense of spirit is somehow important in a form of recovery. Is
that where the spirituality comes
that's
in?
where spirituality comes in. And it's not religion, it's not any, it can be whatever. But it can be that thing that it doesn't matter what happens to you in my life. I am okay. And I've got a lot of other things that are going well for me. Because what we tend to do as addicts and codependents and all those type of things is when shit goes down, it's the worst thing ever. And things will never be okay again. One thing that we're very aware of in addiction recovery is extreme language use. Never, always. We always point it out to people. So you say, he always does it. Do you mean that he never does it differently? No. So then why do you say he always does it? Does he do it once a week, once a day?
Yeah.
No, once a day. So how many times does he not do it that way? About 5 times. So it's not always. Again, the black and white, the extremes. we try to get people to move away from the extremes and to move to the middle way. It is okay. It's only once. It's your 10,000 rand got stolen and you're still okay.
Yeah.
Your brother died. You're still okay.
Yeah. It's not nice. I didn't enjoy it.
Definitely not.
It's not acceptable.
Yeah. But you accept what is and you process it and you move on. The key to addiction recovery, the way I look at it, is feelings. Learn to live with the feelings. Because what we try to do in any form of addiction is we try to change the feeling.
Can you get cured?
No.
From any of these things?
I don't think there's a cure. I think there is a reprieve. We can teach you. I buy into the disease model of addiction.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of people who don't. I do. I believe that addiction is the same as diabetes. There is no cure for diabetes as things stand at the moment.
But there's treatment.
There is treatment.
By the diabetic.
Yes. By the diabetic doing a certain set of things every day, he can live a very healthy, normal life.
But saying that not everyone that fucking smokes crack is a crack addict.
Exactly. And that's a very important thing. Is back to me being on a helpline. The Tanny calls and says, I caught my daughter in the room doing a line of cocaine. What should I do? I said, well, how have you spoken to her? Invariably the answer is no. Says, okay, let's put down the phone, go and speak to your daughter and have an adult, honest, open conversation with your daughter in a non-judgmental way. How often does she do it? How often has she does it? Does she lose school, or does it have an influence in her life? How much money does she spend on it? And come back to it. And invariably the answer is, she said it's only the second time that she's done it.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing
but
is...
can you believe that bitch then?
Yes, exactly. So the first question I ask her, you as the mother, do you believe her? Moms always know.
Yeah.
A woman's intuition. I trust that with my life. They know, Maraba, they know. The woman who suspects her husband of having an affair, it's so interesting, especially with sex addiction, because sex addiction is a shame-based illness.
Okay.
So,
sorry, I wanted to ask you earlier, now that you mentioned the word shame. I saw this movie called Shame with Michael Fassbender about being a sex addict. Have you seen that?
No.
I think it's called Shame. Fucking intense. This guy's like a pure sex addict, and I never really understood it. And I watched that, I was like, okay, now I understand. Now I get an idea of the depths that you go.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember, I think Basketball Diaries was like in the old days, like drug addiction, and it's like some of those movies you watch and it's like, okay, I'm slowly getting an idea for this. So shame-based disease or illness, what do you say?
There's a theory in sex addiction that says that the sex addict is addicted to the shame.
Okay.
That we call in addiction recovery also, we talk about the concept that shit stinks but it's warm.
Yeah.
Is the shame is nearly a place of comfort for us. We've been living in that shame for so long that we don't know how to live without it.
Okay.
But what I want to say is so many sex addicts, you can't hide the fact that you've acted out from your wife. The wife will look at you and say, you've acted out.
If she knows you're an addict.
Yes.
But if you've hidden it and she doesn't know?
Invariably, they will say, once you come clean, I knew there was something wrong.
Is there more men?
Most sex addicts are being caught by their wives. That's how they come into recovery.
Yeah, are there more males in sex addiction?
Yeah.
Why? Is that something of the...
No, that's a really difficult question. If I could answer that question, we can change the world in sex addiction, because we believe that there's possibly the same amount of women who struggle with sex addiction, but it's the men that come into recovery. And we
social acceptance?
We think it has to do with the kind of social thing that women are supposed to be purer and women are supposed to be virgins, and the loving, caring type of thing. Women can't come out into the hunt and those type of things.
So that's stereotypical, like if a guy sleeps with many women, it's almost like high five. And
yes,
if a woman does that, it's like
she's
fucking
a slut.
slut.
Yeah. Totally.
So you think that
type
has
of
a
thing.
massive influence?
Totally so, yeah.
But I've sometimes wondered when it comes to, like, because we spoke earlier about culture, coping mechanisms, being equipped. I sometimes feel that women are slightly better equipped at dealing with certain emotional and mental things. And I wonder if that possibly has an influence on them maybe being slightly healthier. Like, fuck, I've met some women that are batshit crazy. Like, Jesus, like, walk circles around that crazy eyes. Like,
yeah.
but I sometimes, like, maybe from an Afrikaner perspective, like, men are not supposed to talk about their feelings and stuff. So I wonder if women are sometimes, maybe, do you think that has a
Yes.
influence?
Absolutely. And I think we touched on that, is the support system. An addict needs a support system we spoke about earlier, the sense of belonging is the minute you walk into an NA meeting and you see there's other people who are also addicted, who feel and think the same as me. And that's where women are better than men. Women talk to their friends.
Okay.
They go to their girlfriend and she sits and she cries her eyes out. And they have a glass of wine or two, a cup of tea or two. She gets all these emotions. They're far more in touch with their feelings than men are.
Okay.
So men won't call you necessarily and say, he called his best bud and say kind of, I feel very sad today. You think you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, this guy did something and he really hurt my feelings.
Exactly.
And I feel slightly rejected, you know. I hope he's not going to do it tomorrow. That really,
Totally so,
that was not appropriate.
So we as men don't have that forum.
Acceptance, social acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and wrap this up in about 15 minutes.
Cool.
Because
We've
due
been
to
going for a
the alarms, we're running over time. So the following questions will be in answer in any form you want. I generally believe if you look at having problems in your life, there's no one cause. And many things influence that. And there's generally not one solution. There's many aspects. So I assume that when you look at addiction, alcoholism, whatever, there are a variety of solutions out there. So the one question is, what is the different avenues that people can look for help? Also, family members.
Okay.
Obviously, your phone number will be at the bottom. So that's the one question. I also want to wrap up with, if someone's listening and they're wondering if they have depression, what is the symptoms and what do you recommend they do?
Okay.
So what do you feel and think? Like, say I'm depressed and I wake up. What is the thoughts and the feelings I have? And then I was like, fuck, well, if I have this, then I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is, how do I know if I'm bipolar? Because I go through fucking like, yes, life is amazing. And then 6 hours later, something happens. I'm like, these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So how do I identify bipolar? And like we don't have enough time for this, but I'm also sure that if you date someone or you're in a relationship or you have friends or family, like, because I watched Silver Linings Playbook. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Fucking hell, never watching nothing.
I don't watch television.
Okay. Silver Linings Playbook is a thing with Bradley Cooper and the girl from fucking that other thing. I can't think of her name now. Jennifer Lawrence. And I think they're both bipolar. And then, like, you see the way that they behave. And it's like, okay, after a while, it's like, well, that's normal. That's cool. That's fine. But I think it's like, I didn't know a lot of people that are bipolar, and I'm starting to meet more. And I can somehow gauge that this is my expectations.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, quite a long topic.
Let's quickly jump into the bipolar thing.
No. Let's fucking finish if we can, sorry.
Okay.
Let's finish the alcoholism stuff.
Okay.
Solutions. Cool. Where do they go? For any of the alcoholism, fucking sex addictions.
Now, I am a very strong believer of 12-step fellowships.
Okay.
So for the addict, there is Narcotics Anonymous. For the alcoholic, there's Alcoholics Anonymous. For virtually, there are something like 220 different fellowships in the world.
I saw Hoarders Anonymous the other day.
Hoarders Anonymous, Financial Underachievers Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. There's virtually there are so many fellowships. So if you've whatever you're struggling with, type in the word whatever anonymous and see there might just a fellowship might pop up. Now, what a fellowship is, it's a group of men and women who struggle with the same thing that you're struggling with. And all they are is they try to help each other to live happily with this
Common problem?
Yeah, with this common problem. If you are a family member of somebody who struggles with something, is for the major addictions, there are Naranon for drugs, Al-Anon for...
I went to Al-Anon and it fucking changed my life.
Awesome. Al-Anon for alcoholics, COSA for sex addiction. Those are the three major ones that I know of.
Generally in Cape Town there's a lot?
Yes. Cape Town is an amazing place to be an addict. Or a family of an addict, because the support systems are fantastic.
Okay. So that's 12-step fellowships. Woo! Let's just see just stay quiet. I want to see the level. Yeah, that's quite a high level. That will irritate the fuck out of people. Are we going to just quickly stop again?
Yeah, cool. God, give me a heart attack.
All right, so okay, that's quite loud. If people are wondering what the fuck is going on, there's an alarm next door going off, and I have to pause until that is switched off, and then we can get back to this. So we're going about the support networks for families.
So that's the one thing, is the 12-step fellowships. The other thing is get in touch with either a rehab, because they know all the resources in the area.
Okay.
So go online and say drug addiction, sex addiction, porn addiction, watching series addiction, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the minute addiction is there, Google will pick up where you are invariably and identify addiction treatment centers. And those people will be able to direct you.
So 12-step fellowships, either if you're a family member or the one with the problem. Yes. Then there's institutions or facilities.
But even the institutions will be able to direct the family member.
And something I always wonder, which I find funny, is people that have problems that go to psychologists and counsellors. Because I feel just like there's a lot of businesses doing a shit job for money, there's a lot of psychologists and counselors that are just raking in the money and not helping the people with problems. And I think a lot of times when you see professionals, you the boss basically. So you determine where the discussion goes, but you're sick. You need help. So you direct the boat, but you direct it everywhere except to the real problem. And I've seen some people that have seen psychologists and psychiatrists and fucking whatever. And I just don't know how much it helps. Like, listen, I went to a psychiatrist. I told him I have repetitive brain injury, brain trauma. And he wasn't really keen on that. He tried to identify fucking ADHD, ADD. He's got like an ADHD fucking erection. So I said to him, no. So he's like, okay, need mood stabilizer, maybe antidepressant. So I was like, cool, I'll try that out. Like, I'm open for anything. Then I went to go see a psychologist. But I asked him, can I have a psychologist that's going to tell me, go fuck yourself, you're lying to me?
Yeah.
Now, my guy does that, but he's not nerdish, but he's not like bombastic. And he does call me on my stuff. So I love it. And now as we've worked, it's like, I do have brain injury. So I told my psychiatrist, fuck you. We've developed now this theory that I'm quite intelligent. My wife won't believe it. But I have memory problems. And we thought it was because of my brain injuries. We've determined that I get bored very quickly. And if I don't give attention, so I have attention problems in the sense of not ADHD or ADD, I just don't find it interesting. And if I don't find it interesting, it doesn't go into a drawer here. And unfortunately, when my wife talks...
As my husband always says, I would love to stay and chat, but you're really boring me.
Yeah. But I don't realize that it's boring. So then I forget, and then people chew me shit. So then I have not an attention problem, but it was just like, I need to now put in mechanisms. But anyway, I'm working proactively with this guy. I'm working proactively with a chiropractor, a doctor on my back, and we've come to realize, like, I probably didn't have depression. A lot of my back and neck problems has caused me to feel, because the symptoms are the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know if psychologists and psychiatrists are the solution. Probably if you're lucky and you find a good one. I don't know what your opinion on that is.
It's such a difficult answer to give you. Let's start by what I know. Is, as a counsellor, we basically, what they teach us in counselling school, so I went to counselling school, like beauty school, we're supposed to see somebody for 6 times. And if we're not making progress, then we're supposed to refer on.
Okay.
Either I'm not the right counsellor for you.
But how many people do that?
Not very many. Like I got confronted this week with a client where I had to say, kind of, maybe we need to face it that I'm not the right client, not the right counsellor for you.
And I don't want to ask them what the response was.
The answer was, I really get along with you. I would love to continue working with you.
Although you think possibly...
I have to ask myself the question, if the client's not getting better, whether it might be me.
But what's weird is, so let's say they say, I want to continue because I like you and I get on well with you, and you disagree. Their perception of if you're working or not is warped.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that I have with people. That's why it's
so important that we have to question ourselves. So I have to stand back and say, is it me? So in that situation, I have identified another addiction
in this person.
So I can't continue doing the same thing expecting a different result with my client.
Okay.
I'm going to do something different.
And the something different is
working on a different addiction.
You know what's interesting? Because we spoke to France, and I can't remember what I want to say, but it was almost like he said that a lot of selfless people lose their lives or get injured at war, the good ones. And I feel almost like, and so you don't get a reward for your fantastic behavior. And I feel it's the same in business a lot of times, that you don't get that financial reward for your fantastic behavior. Because I have clients that phone my school and they're like, I want you to change my business. I'm like, I can, but I need to change you as the boss or the manager. And I'm like, oh, but I just want you to change my waiters. So I'm like, listen, it's not going to work. I had a lady phone me earlier this week. She's like, I need you to train my manager. So I was like, cool, let's discuss this. At the end of the discussion, after about 15 minutes, I'm like, the solution is you just giving a disciplinary hearing. And you just basically too scared to sit down with her and tune her shit.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. So I'm like, listen, please, you pay me 650 Rand an hour.
Yeah.
You tell me how many hours you want to spend, or you send it on my course. But I'm just telling you now, I won't be fixing your problem. Now, it's a fantastic thing that I'm honest, but I don't get rewarded for that financially. And I think it's the same for a lot of psychiatrists and doctors. So I think they tend to like not choose that behavior. It's the same like probably what France was saying at war. Like, because we were talking about the example of throwing a grenade. So he said, what you do when a grenade falls next to you is you fall flat. That's it. Because if you fall flat, chances are 90% that it's not going to hurt you. And he says a lot of times, or not a lot, but there were some cases where people throw the grenade back. And I'm like, but isn't that contrary to what you taught? He's like, yeah, but normally when that happens, it's like the people think that maybe some of their team members won't survive. So they take rather that option of trying to throw it back, hope for the best.
Yeah.
And that's why he says a lot of people get hurt that are selfless. And I'm sure it's the same in your situation. But trying to convince someone that has a war position of their life is quite difficult.
Yes. So ethically, we need to be very, very aware of the contribution we make. And I'm a people pleaser. So I want to walk away knowing that I'm helping people. Also, I might be gay, but I stay a male. Male are problem solvers. I want to solve the problem.
Yeah.
If I'm not seeing progress, then I get frustrated with myself.
Don't ask for compassion. Give me a thing that I can actually physically do.
Exactly. Madhva, I want to say something there that's actually quite important for this conversation, is we get a lot of addicts of whatever form that continue relapsing.
Okay. Relapsing meaning going back to the
Going
old
back
behavior.
to the old behavior, yeah. Start using again, start overeating again, whatever the case may be. When that happens continuously, we need to look at two different things. One is, are we treating the correct addiction?
Okay.
A lot of people I'm using drugs, but I'm also a love addict.
Okay.
I'm drinking a lot, but I also watch a shitload of porn. But I'm talking about the fact that I'm drinking a lot because that's not so shame-based, but I'm not going to talk about the fact that I'm like watching a shitload of porn.
Okay.
People think I'm a pervert because one of the standard questions I ask is, how often do you masturbate? I need to know that shit for me to make sure that I'm treating the right thing.
Yeah.
I need to know that. So a lot of time, there is a process addiction that we're not aware of or not treating. So if your client keeps on relapsing, or if your brother or sister or whoever keeps on relapsing, make sure that you're treating the correct addiction.
Because it's probably like if you're smoking weed, chances are good you're drinking and smoking cigarettes as well.
Yeah.
If you're shooting heroin, chances are good you've taken a few lines of coke or smoked weed or
other downers, at least, yeah.
a variety of
yeah.
other stuff. So I'm sure the people come see you and there's normally a variety of other stuff.
Yes.
And they're willing to be honest on the one area but not on the other.
So. And the other thing that we need to look at is what we call coexisting conditions.
Okay.
So you are using a crap load of drugs which makes your life unmanageable. Are you actually depressed maybe? Do you suffer from depression? Do you suffer from anxiety? Do you have post-traumatic stress syndrome? Are you schizophrenic? Do you have borderline personality disorder? For as long as I try to treat your addiction and you have all this other stuff, I'm not going to be able to help your addiction. Because the other stuff is constantly, you might be clean, but you feel like shit. So you end up using because you feel like shit. So I need to find out whether there's some other stuff as well. So I work very close to one specific psychiatrist in Cape Town. If I suspect even the slightest coexisting condition, go and see the psychiatrist immediately.
But the problem I have with the psychiatrist is if you give a guy a hammer, he's going to look for a nail.
Yeah.
And if you go see a psychiatrist, he's going to look for the right pharmaceutical shit to pump into your system.
Yeah, that's why, again, find the right psychiatrist. Find someone you trust.
Yeah, and I'm trying to arrange for a pharmacist to come on.
Oh, cool.
And he said 80 or 90% of the shit they sell is not needed.
I know 80 or 90% of shit that I take is placebos.
Yeah.
But
so it's just because again, so we said 12-step fellowship, psychiatrists, psychologists.
very
now
important.
we said rehab facilities. Where does medication and religion come into this? Because we have a church here called Shofar.
Okay.
And I've heard a lot of people that go to Shofar. My brother was one. He went from someone that smoked a lot of weed, took a fucking hallucinogenics and stuff. He became super fucking Christian.
Yeah.
It's almost like not a brainwash thing, but I sometimes feel almost like they joined the Church of Scientology, and then somehow it's almost worse at the end of it because then that really breaks down. And that's what I wanted to say about France earlier, is that he says like when you're 18, 19 and you join the military, you have to break down somebody and rebuild them. Yeah. And I assume that's what the rehabs do. And I assume sometimes they break down a lot and then they try to build you up. And possibly psychiatrists and psychologists can't do that once a week, every hour, because you also determine what they can and cannot do. So is that also the breakdown, rebuild process?
No. No, not at all. That's not how I work. I would.
But isn't that how rehabs work?
Not really, no.
Not all of them?
No.
Some
do. And I don't agree with how they work.
Okay.
We don't have to break you down to find the reason why you act in a certain way.
Sorry. Do you feel guilty taking money helping people?
No.
Okay.
But I discount very quickly.
Is it?
Because I want to help you.
Yeah.
Often I discount and I find because I think you don't have the money, and I find out later, but you spend 2,000 Rand a month on your nails. I think, oh my God.
Yeah.
I discount far too quickly.
Because I sometimes have this problem where, I don't know, it's so easy for me to help you that I feel almost guilty to charge you money for that. Yeah. But it's almost like, I just find it just quickly. So medicine, it has a place in...
Medicine definitely has a place in addiction recovery. The very important thing is that the medicine needs to be prescribed by the appropriate professional.
Okay.
Cool. And
how do you know you have the appropriate professional? That's the difficult part.
Do you feel...
Second opinions, third
opinions. I'm lucky that I seem to have found the appropriate professional is somebody I can really feel comfortable with. We really talk very openly and very easily. We actually scream over each other to get a talking bit. I love going to see her.
And the results are there.
I feel better. That's all I want. I suffer from depression. I'm a depression sufferer. For a very long time, I didn't want to take medication.
Fantastic segue. What is depression? I know you want to talk about a lot of stuff, but we got to try and wrap it up.
So quickly, depression is, and I'm going to use myself as the example, is I came off the drugs and the alcohol and the addictive sex, and over a period of time, I just started feeling more and more bad. And even though my life was in order, I was feeling bad. There's an incongruence between what's happening in my life and how I feel.
Okay.
Constantly. It's not that some days I started feeling really suicidal. But my life was really good.
Okay.
When there's this incongruence, then there's possibly a chemical imbalance.
Because
if somebody died in your life and you feel depressed, that's completely okay.
That's normal.
Yeah, that's normal.
Standard.
But if it lasts longer than a year, then it's possibly not normal anymore. Then there's an incongruence between the event and the feeling.
Kurt Cobain, fucking biggest rock star, shoots himself. If Courtney didn't do it. But there's this DJ that killed himself. Avicii.
Oh.
It's probably a similar type of thing of fucking one of the biggest DJs at the moment.
Yeah,
and
you would think he should be on top of the world. Yet he kills himself.
But then I think someone like Robin Williams that I heard is that he had some sort of illness that took away, and it was like, listen, I've had it.
Yeah.
Then there's the CTE that I sometimes worry about that I have it, which is the disease of repetitive concussions.
Yeah.
You know, and that anyway.
But
so that's depression.
That for me is the real definition of depression, and that's what I hit. So I went off my medication.
So what you feel and what your life is like isn't in sync.
Yeah.
So life's good. You feel
like
though
shit
like
constantly. Yeah. And that's the symptoms of depression are normally sleep. Do you sleep too much or do you struggle to sleep? Are you eating okay? Are you eating on a regular basis? Because normally depressants either overeat or they don't want to eat because they feel like shit. Can you engage with life? Normally people who are depressed sleep a hell of a lot because they just don't have the energy. They just don't have this energy.
Nothing makes them happy.
Nothing makes you happy.
Conflict with everyone.
A lot of depressants don't even go there because they don't even engage with people.
Okay.
But
then what's manic depressive?
Manic depression is when this depression, when your depression is, when you're on a low constantly. So let's take this as being okay. Manic depressants, most of us fluctuate on a level. We're not always okay, but we fluctuate on this line. Depressed people will invariably fluctuate underneath the line, and manic depressants have been functioning quite low for a long time.
Okay.
That's manic depression, and they can't lift themselves up. Normal depressants like me, I'm not extremely low, but I'm under this line. When I take my medication, I'm slightly on top of this line.
Okay.
Bipolar people jump between this. And to answer your question of earlier, when are you bipolar? Again, is there a reason for you to be manic? I mean, it's okay to be manic when you've won $1 million. Yeah, you're going to go fucking crazy. But if you're going crazy and there's no reason for you to, then you possibly are slightly manic.
Or if you go into a really deep
depression, and you fluctuate between this for no reason whatsoever.
I watched a South African guy on YouTube, and he showed how he would fucking go up and down. I heard sometimes that it can be a 15-minute cycle sometimes. This guy went through like this and that like numerous times during a day, but I think that's obviously an extreme case. Yeah. And then what? So if that's the line and you fluctuate here and there, what the bipolar medication does, it keeps you in a lower high and low bracket.
What we try to do with the medication is we try to to make the band smaller.
Okay.
So that you're still going to fluctuate, but you're going to fluctuate within acceptable parameters for you.
But it's...
We don't want to numb the feelings. That's what happens. That's why with bipolar, we struggle to get the I'm not a psychiatrist. They struggle to get the medication right, because a lot of the medication numbs the person completely. They have no feelings. That's also not what we're working towards. We want you to feel normal, to be okay, to feel. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel.
And normal means up and down.
Up and down, yeah. And that's what addicts have a lot of problems. We want to feel up the whole time. We can't deal with that down feeling.
I do. I struggle with that sometimes in the sense of, I don't know why, but it's almost like I've got to be like minimum 6 out of 10 every day with my feelings. Like I just need to be 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 10 because I'm trying hard. So I should be feeling good. And I struggle to like I've struggled to feel tired. I'm like, oh my God. And it's like
I want what he's having.
It's like yesterday I was fucking dead. I had such a big deadline. I wrote a whole training manual in a week.
Good God.
And I got home finally yesterday after this fucking week. And I'm like, I'm destroyed. And I'm like, what a fucking dick. I'm like, maybe I need to drink a coffee, have a banana, get some glucose in, like push. And then finally, like I'm dying on the couch. And then the neighbor's kid comes and it's like, will you play tennis with me, please? Obviously, I can't say no to a 6-year-old. So it's like, fucking play tennis. Then,
no.
And I'm like, and that just continues to go on and on. But I don't know how I got on. That's an insight into my life.
The answer to what I really work towards for my clients is a healthy balance in life. And back to your religious question. A lot of people use religion to fill the void.
Okay.
But it's good to have a sense of a higher power. It's excellent. But the higher power can't fill that hole that drugs filled, because now you're again unhealthy. It can, but do you have a balance? Do you live a balanced life? Are you eating healthy? Are you getting exercise? Are you socializing with your family? Are you seeing your friends? Are you going out? Are you getting exercise? We try to find a sense of balance. I try to get you to be holistically the best person I can get you to be. If you're going to be addicted to church, then you're not balanced. If you're not seeing your family because you're constantly at church, that's not balanced.
Because I see some church people, I'm like, fuck, that looks cool. Like, that looks seriously cool. But I think I've seen a difference between church people that they've been cool church people their whole life versus people that have been alcoholics or addicts, and now they suddenly are reborn religious people. And the way they do it, I'm like, I'm not envious on that. But
I see that as they fill the hole.
Okay.
The void has been filled by that.
But I'm also... maybe it does.
But
maybe
also, Maverick, what
does.
happens a lot is the pendulum swings. You're an addict on... Where's the camera? There. Where am I? There am I. So this is the middle of the pendulum. So in addiction, we're there. Once we drop the addiction, we're possibly going to swing over to the overly recovering for a while.
Yeah.
But the pendulum swings, and what we're hoping for over a period of time to find the middle way. That's the balance. A balanced life in all aspects of your life. If I can get that for people, that's the happiest person I can be.
Yeah. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I want to talk about your conference, but I think what you should maybe do is...
come do an advertising spiel one day.
No, but I would like to know, maybe do a 15, 20-minute audio, explain your conference, send it to me, and I'll put it onto my Facebook, I'll put it onto my YouTube. The reason I want to get out of here is I can hear that Kayamandi is starting to party. And there is some taxis and stuff starting to park out here, and I can hear the party is starting. It's 6:30, so I want to get out of here while it's safe.
Yeah, let's do that.
So that's why I'm going to wrap it up. There's so many things I still want to ask you. Second time that you're here.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a lot to say. What can I do? What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? I've got a lot to say. Later, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the forum that you give somebody like me to actually talk about addiction. And let's watch it. Let's show this to other people. I don't think I'm not a specialist. I am just an addict who went to study a little bit to help people, and that's what I try to do to the best of my ability. But if I get one person to hear that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. We don't have to suffer. There's help. There's always help somewhere. Ask for help. Please. Awesome. Thank you very much. Cool. Thanks for my armband.
Plesier. Baie dankie, Freddy.
Groot plesier.